All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you, just like me. Today, again, I've got special guests on the show. This amazing band that I just found out about. I'm only like 20 years behind the curve, but hey, it's better late than never, right? Evolution Eden, double E. That would be maybe the easiest way to remember. I've got two band members on with me. Brandon Owen. Say hello, Brandon.
Hey, everybody. How's it going out there?
And we've also got Mike Pappas, guitarist Mike Pappas. Say hello, Mike.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here.
All right. I like the hat, Mike. I know you're doing like the Tim Pool thing there. It's kind of interesting, but regardless, it's good. The hair, I'm starting to lose it, so I'm probably going to go, I'm going to go full beanie pretty soon. So you guys have been around for 20 years. 20 years. What have you guys been doing for 20 years?
Just losing our hair.
Good answer. Playing music and losing your hair. What a great combo. The shipment of Rogaine is on the way, guys. Anyway, so you've opened up for a lot of great bands. I think that's pretty cool. How'd you guys get started in this business, in this desert landscape of real rock and roll? Because that's what this is.
Yeah, it's been some small incremental steps. When we first got together, we were just, Pap and I, just writing songs for fun. And when we had 14 of them, our friends wanted us to burn them on CDs, and we did. And one of our friends sent them to a San Francisco radio station called KGO, and they had a contest for the best music you've never heard. And somehow our song Walls of Wonderland won.
Nice.
So when they interviewed us, they're, tell us about the band. And we didn't have one. So we put a band together, and then the album got officially released, our first album, Story Road. And that garnered the attention of producer, mixer Beau Hill from Rat, Winger, and Warrant. And we got a call on April Fool's Day from him saying he wanted to work with us. So Pap calls him and he's like, "Brandon, are you messing with me? I just got this call from Beau Hill saying he wants to work with us. Are you messing with me?" And I'm like, "No, man, it wasn't me." So we ended up doing our second record with Beau Hill called Saturday Night Drive-In. And that garnered the attention of a festival in Chicago called the Melodic Rock Fest, where we played that festival. And then that kind of took us from a bar band to opening up for bigger names. So we opened for Jeff Tate and Susanna Hoff of the Bangles. And then that led us to LA, opening for, I think our first show was Dawkin, and we were at the bottom of the 7 or 8 band bill. And the next show we played, I think, was with Winger, and we were direct support. And we haven't looked back since. And our third album, we were able to work with Andy Johns, which was fantastic. And since then, we've kind of been self-producing and self-mixing and opening for all the bands that we grew up with, our childhood heroes. And, we're getting ready to release Sonic Cinema.
So, Michael, that was great, by the way, Brandon. Michael, so your influences, what is this band about? There's a little bit of everything from what I've sampled, and I'm thinking the new album is probably going to be the same way, correct?
Yeah, I'd say similar. We don't try to really follow anything too trendy. We just, I think, write a lot of songs that we like to hear, and influences, story-wise and pop-wise are like Bryan Adams, Bon Jovi. We grew up Kiss fans, Van Halen, those kind of things. Not that I'd say we sound like Van Halen or anything, but just as far as those were sort of our bands that we loved as kids. And then locally out here, Y&T was a big influence for me. I've seen them millions and millions of times, but again, we wouldn't sound like them per se. We'd never say, "Oh, we sound like Y&T," but we've opened for them 3 or 4 times, and that's pretty much I don't know, I'm speaking for Brandon to some degree, but we like storytelling, you know, so there's always an element of that. And we know we don't try to get political or tell anybody how to live their lives or how to save the world. We sing about love and breaking up and having a good time and things that, you know, hopefully make people feel good and happy. And again, we've always written for ourselves, not really for anybody else. So we're hopeful that when you hear the songs, you like them. You know, they make you feel good and they make you feel like one comment I get a lot is, even though it's the first time I hear your music, it seems familiar to me. I hear that comment, and that probably just stems from, you know, we're a top 40 kind of guys. We have tons and tons of CDs in our collections, and I think that just right some of that structure in when you're trying to create something yourself.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things I noticed on this single that dropped called Blood Runs Wild, Brandon, there's a hook, dude. At the beginning, there's a guitar hook. I never hear guitar hooks anymore. And you know, it's always like a crunchy, big intro that just hits you like a ton of bricks. This had an intro on guitar, which I miss so much. Just like, you know, I'm trying to explain to my son what a guitar solo is, you know, because you don't hear them anymore in a lot of new songs. But I'm so inspired when I hear somebody who's not just throwing all the compressed music and lumping it together on you at the beginning. I love the fact that this has an intro. And the song, by the way, you know, because an intro obviously leads into something else, and hopefully the something else is going to live up to the intro. And in this case, this song, you guys hit a home run with Blood Runs Wild as the first single from your forthcoming album called Sonic Cinema.
Yeah, you know, I think when we had that riff, it was undeniable. And it's like, okay, you got to let that thing slow burn in the beginning before you get to the vocal. You know, it's kind of even though, again, like Pap said, it doesn't sound like Billy Squier, but it was kind of from that Billy Squier, like, let that riff hang out there a little bit before you get to the song, you know? So yeah, we love starting with the hook. Let's get a guitar hook going. And I think it helps build the song up. You know, because you want that chorus to be big. So just starting with a guitar and the drums, and then let that vocal come in, and then the pre-chorus comes and you add another guitar and the bass, and then the chorus, it's, you know, pedal to the metal. And that's the kind of songwriting that we love. And it might be formulaic, but we love that formula. So we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, amen to that, right? And again, what do you guys think of the industry these days? I mean, it's got to be a little discouraging, and I hate to bring the negativity in. I know you guys, you're talking about how you write positive or upbeat songs. You're not trying to save the world. You're not trying to be political, which honestly, I appreciate. I really do. At this point in history, I appreciate a band just going out there and saying, you know what, maybe you need to forget about that for a half hour or 45 minutes or however long, right? So you guys are putting out music that is just, you know, old school, gonna make you feel good for a little while, grab yourself a cold one and kick back. And I think that's the strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we say music industry, I think there is
I'm sorry. What was the music industry? I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, you know, when we put an album out and I just Google our band name and I see that it's free all over the world, you know, I think you have to do it because you love it, you know, and we just love making music. And with this album, we wrote it during the pandemic, and, you know, we were angry and upset and decided, you know what, that's not the kind of album that we want to make. Let's make an album that makes people feel good. Because when we were writing it, who knew how long we would be stuck in our house? And, you know, that was the intent. So yeah, with streaming and, you know, like I grew up on albums, and I love opening that album up and taking it out of the sleeve. And then, you know, I love reading the credits and who wrote the songs and, you know, everything about an album. And now that's a thing of
Gone.
the past.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we're trying to roll with the times, but our CD is going to have an 8-page fold out with lyrics and credits, and you're going to get to see our faces, and for good or bad, and Pap, you want to add in on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I think I'll just go back to, we do it because we enjoy it. And, again, we're not trying to say anything super special, but hoping that, some stranger like yourself, I mean, this is, to me, amazing that we can put something out there. The internet is good and bad, right? I mean, 20 years ago, no one would hear this. We have a chance of millions of people potentially hearing our songs because of this format, but yet so do, that's, I think, why we have millions and millions and millions of songs getting put out there, some probably not as good as others. So, it's exciting to me and us that you, David, you're like, hey, you've heard us somewhere. I'm not even sure where you did, and reached out to us to say, hey, I'd like to talk to these guys and learn more. That's really exciting, for us as artists.
It's exciting for me too. I mean, it's just great to hear new stuff that I can relate to. I subscribe to a couple of these record labels from overseas. One of them is Lion's Pride Music. Last year, I spent the majority of my time kind of focused on one record label, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry, but I've kind of opened up a little bit to some other things, and I've noticed that there's a little bit more independence on a couple of these labels where the bands don't all sound the same. They don't have the same production value. You guys are a little more raw, but yet you're a little more pop in some ways, but then it's hard to kind of throw you into a category where some record labels put out material and the production is kind of all the same. Okay, and it's a matter of, did you write a different song, but it kind of sounds like that other song I heard? And again, for me, I want to hear some air in it. You know what I mean? That's what I loved about the intro to Blood Runs Wild. I finally heard something I could, kind of, my ears could kind of grab onto. Is that kind of a conscious thing? You guys are doing self-production. You don't want to wind up like the wall of noise that I'm hearing all the time?
Well, I'll speak. I'll give Brandon some credit here. He's the chief architect, and he's turned his home studio into something that can produce a high quality record. And again, what it ends up sounding like is us listening to it, deciding if we think it sounds good or not. Primarily, I mean, in the band. But you're right when you speak of like Lion's Pride. If you listen to their catalog, I didn't find anybody that sounded like us, although I did hear some bands that sounded similar. And they reached out to us, to do the deal. So they must have heard something, unique. But like I think you were saying, Dave, how some of these labels, it's sort of like different people in the band. Mm-hmm. But it kind of looks, the videos that they release kind of all have the same vibe, and there might be those super high alto singers everybody has, and not, like it or not, it's sort of the same, and we have had trouble fitting in. That's why for us, we could literally play with a country band, mm-hmm. With a metal band. Again, we played acoustically with Susanna Hoffs.
Yeah,
I mean, we can change our catalog, and our sound is, we have such a deep catalog that we can play. Sometimes it's just Brandon and I on acoustic guitars, and we can play 45 minutes and open up John Waite. We played with him. Last minute, the management said, "Oh, he doesn't want you guys to be plugged in. You got to play acoustic." Okay, boom. Bit of a transition. The set we had to kind of on the fly because we hadn't practiced it that way. But yeah. So I don't know. We're able to do that, and I'm glad that you're hearing we sound a little different, but familiar and likable to your ears.
Yeah, and Brandon, vocally, I mean, you're definitely not. I mean, you've got a rock and roll style. It's not as if you're trying to be Tony Bennett out there. You're belting it out, and people are hearing that. And I think there's this kind of 70s vibe, and then there's kind of like, I mean, I hear a little like Mutt Lange going on with some of those vocals and the production in the background.
Good call.
Hey, hey,
Yeah.
don't try this at home, all right? Not everybody can do a channel like this. You see, it's toward the end of the day, and I'm a little bit loopy. And no, I haven't been drinking at all. So, but yeah, you guys, I think you have a lot of different influences in there. Now, I've only heard one song, obviously, off the new album. Any surprises in there? Anything that you'd be a little shocked to hear? Did you do anything a little out of the ordinary? Any acoustic ballads that might be tear-jerking or something like that?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that makes our band unique is actually Pap and I both sing lead vocals. So kind of, you said that 70s vibe, you know, that's kind of definitely from the 70s, and, you know, bands like Night Ranger. So we have two lead vocalists, and I'm kind of the rougher around the edges vocal, and Pap's more of the smooth whiskey vocal. But yeah, this album, you know, well, I think Blood Runs Wild is a good representation of the album. You know, we do have an acoustic ballad called A Good Thing that is very much in the vein of like 70s Rod Stewart, like Maggie May and things like that. Okay. And then we kind of have, I don't know, a pop punk kind of sound, like a Simple Plan type of song called A Bad Habit I Don't Want to Break. So, you know, I think the thing that's unique about our band is, you know, some bands will steal from one band or two band. We steal from everybody. So it doesn't matter what the genre is. I think we even have a song on here that has a drum loop, and it's kind of, at least the intro kind of has a country tinge to it, called Here's to the Good Times, although by the middle it's rocking. So, you know, we're not afraid to have acoustics. We're not afraid to have big harmonies. We'll take it down for a ballad. So I think the thing that's great about our band is, with the labels we've worked with, is they stay out of our way. We just create the music that we want to make. So if we're in the mood to write a ballad, we can write a ballad. We don't have to stick to that formula of, okay, we only want drop D 12 Blood Runs Wild. We can really expand the catalog out and do what we want to do.
That's awesome. I love to hear that they're giving you freedom. Now, is this your first album with Lion's Pride?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And they're based where, in Italy or Germany or somewhere?
Denmark. I think.
Denmark.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I knew it was one of those countries, but I would have kept guessing and probably still not gotten it right. But it's just good. I mean, are you guys big over there? Do people over in Europe like you?
Not that we don't know. We don't know.
You don't know yet, but they might. They might.
Well,
so after this video, it could just break open, and then you guys will be sending me royalty checks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you'll get a percentage of the large percentage we've been.
You got any T-shirts? I'll just take a T-shirt. I'm big on T-shirts. People make fun of me, but
all right. Yeah, I think the reason why we went with Lion's Pride was to try to expand outside of the U.S. You know, in Europe and in Japan, which is kind of their forte, people still buy CDs.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. You know, here in America, most people are going to Spotify the record, which we know. Yeah. So the idea was to try to expand into those markets, because we hadn't really tapped into them. So that was the whole reason to sign with them.
I would send this to Greece, since Mike has Pappas for a last name. I'd be shipping him over to Greece and seeing what happens. You know.
Well, ironically enough, I think their A&R guy is a Greek, although it's a you know, Danish or Dutch label. The guy we deal with is Greek. I can tell by his last name and his English skills. It's like a little rocky sometimes when we're trying to communicate, but
that's awesome. Well, guys, I wish you guys the best of luck. Any other thoughts you'd like to share about the album? Or, I know it comes out, what, March 31st, is that correct?
Yeah, March 31st, 12 rockin' tunes. It sounds cliche, but I think it's the best work. Every album just keeps getting better and better, mostly because, our experience and our production values get better. And, hey, just give it a listen. It may be something that tickles the eardrums,
Yeah.
And
And what about touring? You guys going out there
don't
to
be afraid to
tour?
go dig through the old catalog too. We've got 5 other albums out there already. So, dig backwards and check it out too. There's a lot. If you like to experience new music and you like this single, go back and listen. There's tons of great songs, in my humble opinion. I'd be happy, I'm happy with all 60 or whatever we have out there. So don't be afraid to do that, evolutioneden.com. And we've got those readily available in a CD format for sale. So,
And I always encourage people, guys, to buy CDs, support the band, have a physical copy. I tell people, what if this all goes down? And I know it sounds a little apocalyptic here, but what if this all, like the internet, just for whatever reason, something goes wrong and nobody has a physical copy of anything? Have yourself a CD player handy that you can still plug in, hopefully get to the power, and then obviously you'll have CDs to play while everybody else is trying to, their phone, they're trying to Bluetooth something to their whatever, and they can't do it. And you're the only guy in the neighborhood, and you got all the Evolution Eden CDs, and you're rocking out, and they're, having a bad life because
you'd be the most popular guy on your block,
Right. I mean, and I'm being a little goofy, but it's just good to have physical copies of these songs. And being old school, I totally relate to your opening the album up and you seeing who's playing on every song. That was such a cool experience, and that's gone. I mean, the booklets are good. Don't get me wrong. I like the booklets, but the CD or the album experience was just, it was very communal when I grew up, and I got an album in the mail and I was like, oh man, rip that plastic open. I mean, I know you guys are kind of from the same school, so I love that.
Yeah, I think it gives you ownership of the band. Like there's a connection between the band that you don't get over the internet.
100%.
You're a shareholder. Right. It's like one share of the band,
So you guys out on the road at all, touring the Bay Area or going in different places? What's going on?
We're starting to get shows booked. We're putting the feelers out there now for the summer. So right now we're doing a lot of interviews like this, the promotion, and then this summer we'll go out and hit the road and probably play all up and down California. It's not quite booked yet, but things look like they're starting to fall into place. And I know that Dallas is asking for us to come out there, and maybe we just need to get out there to Florida.
Yeah, amen to that, brother. Here's what I would do, right? I would, first of all, I'm going to see if Irving Azoff will watch this video. That's number one. If he watches the video, no, hear me out. Hear me out. Because there's this thing going on this summer. It's Def Leppard, Motley Crue. So I'm thinking Evolution Eden opens for Motley Crue, who's all using, tape delay, loop, a vocal enhancement, some other kinds of enhancements from what I understand, but we won't go there. And then of course you have Def Leppard, and they're still all right. They're good. But I mean, this would be a great opportunity. I mean, they had some band that went out on the stadium tour that I had never heard of before. I can't even remember the name.
I think it's Classless Act.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so you guys, good. You probably were like, that should have been us, man. We should have been.
It should have been us. Yeah. And no backing tapes here. We're not smart enough to know how to work that.
I'm going to say that this band is not smart enough to fake their show.
Nope, you're going to hear all the warts. It is what it is.
And that's the way it should be. All right, that's the way it should be. But anyway, if Irving Azoff, if you're watching, buddy, this is your band, man. These guys, I mean, they'll probably work for half of what Motley Crue is getting, maybe a third. We don't know. But in any event, guys, I appreciate you being on this goofy channel of mine, and Best of luck with this album and keep in touch. All right.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
We will. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.